And today's topic going to be about the KPIs. Okay. We covered many topics in the training, and some of them were technical and some of them were actually governance. So we cover topics like vulnerability management, risk management, antivirus management, incident management. We covered many topics. Okay. However, one of the main requirements of any information security framework is to keep improving the security. I mean, whatever we covered so far was mainly related to the implementation of something. I mean, how do we implement, for example, vulnerability management, how to create a policy and follow that? How do we conduct a risk assessment? How we should have an antivirus and what is our responsibility regarding the antivirus management? We cover that. But let me give you a small example and tell me your feedback about it. Let's say that your company decided to purchase an antivirus for all the machines and servers. And as you know, this is a compliance requirement. It's not an optional. They are enforced to purchase antivirus for all the devices inside the organization. Okay. This is actually kind of a expensive software because, you know, if a company got like a couple of thousand machines and maybe 300 or 400 servers, they need to purchase those products and they need to renew it every year. So the company wanted to purchase an antivirus. You know the process. What should we do when we have to select about a security product like DLP or antivirus? We need to do the statement of work, the success criteria. We know the process, right? So the company end up purchasing Kaspersky antivirus and they pay that much amount of money. And by the end of the year, they need to renew the license, right? So they come back to you as a security specialist asking you, what do you think about Kaspersky? Is it a proper antivirus or should we switch to another antivirus? Because after all, we're going to have to pay a big amount of money to renew the license. Okay. You as a security specialist, how can you reply back to the management? How can you tell them if yes, we need to renew the license or no, we need to consider a new solution? I took this example because it's going to be applicable on many scenarios. Okay. So I will not be able to reply back unless I can measure the effectiveness of the antivirus. Right? I mean, I cannot tell to the management, senior management, yes, this is a very good antivirus because it it detected that much of viruses and deleted that much of ransomware. I cannot speak technically with the management. Management need to know numbers. What is the effectiveness of the antivirus? If you tell them the effectiveness is 55%, at least this is a number the management can understand, regardless of the technicality of the solution. Okay. So the point here, how can we measure the effectiveness of the antivirus? This is one of the examples. Let me give you another example. Let's say that you do have a team in your company responsible for incident management. They are the one who's monitoring the same solution. And whenever they found an incident, they start taking action. You know, maybe two people logging using the same account from two different locations. So they will send to the Windows team to block the access. Maybe there is a vulnerability found in one of the system. Maybe there is someone tried to brute force a system, whatever is the scenario. But the point is, how can I measure the effectiveness of my incident management? How can I know is that the people who are dealing with incident are doing that in a very good way? or maybe it's not done in a proper way and we need to give them training, hire more people. How can I measure in effectiveness of incident management process? This is usually done by something called KPI, key performance indicator. And this is very, very important, guys. Sometimes we get hired just to create for the company a KPI framework, okay? The KPI is a way to measure the effectiveness for some security controls, okay? Let's take the antivirus as an example, and then we will apply that on different security control. So, for example, I'm going to show you a real antivirus KPI. Okay. So, assume that my company purchased Kaspersky as an antivirus KPI, and I decided to measure the effectiveness every quarter in a way that by the fourth quarter, by the end of the year, I can say, yes, the antivirus was working very effectively, or we need to change the antivirus. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of the antivirus? Is to detect and delete viruses, right? I mean, after all, this is the antivirus responsibility. So assuming that the antivirus was able to detect 1,000 virus, but he was able to delete or remove only 850 virus. Accordingly, what is the effectiveness of the antivirus? He detected 1,000, but he was not able to delete all of them. He was only able to delete 850 virus. So in this case, what is the effectiveness of the antivirus? This is the total number of virus, this amount, and this was the virus not cured or treated, and this is the virus cured. So if I divided this number over this number, I will get the total number of virus. Okay. If I tell you that the effective, this was measured in Q1, okay, Q1. If I told you that the antivirus effectiveness was 85%, is it good? I cannot say it's good or bad. It depends on what is my target. So when I put a formula to measure the KPI for effectiveness, it's not enough to measure or to identify how I will measure the KPI. I mean, in this case, for the antivirus, the way I will be measuring it is how many virus was detected comparing to how many virus was deleted, right? So I know the formula, but it's not enough. I need to have a formula and I need to have a target. Okay, so if my target as a company was 95% and I was able to do 85%, so it's not effective. But if my target was 80% and my antivirus effectiveness is 85%, then it's fine. The reason we measure the KPI, and by the way, we will have around 15 KPIs. I'm giving the antivirus because it's easy to explain. But you're going to need to have a KPI for awareness, KPI for vulnerability management, KPI for risk, KPI for incident management. You need to have from 10 to 15 KPI. It's very, very important. This is the, things that will combine everything that we covered so far. So the reason I'm measuring the KPI is not just to get a value saying, okay, this quarter, our effectiveness or our antivirus effectiveness was 85%. No, the reason we are doing that is to see why we didn't achieve the goal. So if I got 85% and my target was 95%, I need to understand the root cause and the corrective and preventive action. Why most of the viruses was not removed or a lot of virus was not deleted? Was it because a lot of people download program from the internet? Maybe I need to give more awareness to people. Was it because the antivirus is weak, it cannot recognize new viruses? Maybe I need to contact the vendor. Was it because a lot of people are using USP? So maybe I need to block the USP. So the reason we are measuring that is just to analyze why we didn't achieve the goal and accordingly taking some corrective and preventive action. In Q1, it was 85%, fine. Okay, we analyze it, the root cause, and we try to take some action, giving awareness. In Q2, it dropped down to 68%. So when we start investigating that, they said, yeah, it's not a problem because actually we updated the antivirus on all the machines. So we had to remove all the antivirus and reinstall it one more time. So there was a justification for that. Okay, so it's fine. It means that we installed the new version, so it should be working fine. So we measured in quarter 3. It reached 93. Okay, by the way, the target was 90%. So we achieved the target, we are fine. And in quarter 4, we measure how many virus was detected comparing to how many virus was deleted, the percentage was 96%. So by doing that, after quarter 4, if the management came and asked me, should we renew the antivirus? I can reply back with figures, right? Yes, we measure the effectiveness of the antivirus and we achieved 96%, while our target was 95% or 90%. So I have a solid information that I'm using to suggest about a product. Okay. So the KPI is very, very important in our business. It allows you to measure and take preventive. It's not just measuring. We are measuring that to be able to analyze it. So if I didn't achieve my goal, I need to know, because not necessarily, I mean, when I, for example, when I achieve 68% as in KPI, not necessarily it's because the antivirus is weak. It could be for any other reason. Maybe employees are removing the antivirus from the computer so they can download program from the internet. And according to that, I will decide that we need to put a password on the antivirus so no one can remove it unless he got the password. So you will have an area to improve the security control if you analyze it. So the KPI is not just to measure, it's to measure the effectiveness, to identify a target and start analyzing why we didn't achieve the target. Is the antivirus the only controls that we need to measure? No. As I told you, you have from 10 to 15 KPIs that you need to have, measure them frequently and analyze them and start working on their improvement. Let me give you an example. My awareness, do you think we need to have a KPI for the awareness? By the way, awareness is the only control that will have 2 KPI. One KPI for attendance. So for example, if I'm conducting KPI for a company, I'm inviting all departments to attend. So I sent to 1,000 people an invitation to attend, but only 700 people attended. So the attendance, how can I measure the effectiveness of the attendance? Number of people who attended over the number of people that was invited. So if 700 people from 1,000 attended, it means 70%. So this is measuring the attendance, okay? But more important is what both of you are raised, which is the effectiveness, because maybe people are attending the awareness, but they are not really focusing, or they are not really follow up, or they are not really giving attention to what you are saying. I can measure based on the people who passed the questionnaire. So when I do the awareness, I will do a questionnaire and put a passing score and see how many people passed. So if 1,000 people attended, but only 900 people passed the exam, then the effectiveness KPI is 90%. Is it good? It depends on the target. What is my target as a company? Is it 90%? Is it 95%? So it depends on the target, okay? So the awareness will always have 2 different KPI. The only control that will have 2 KPI, okay? What about incident management? This also need to have a KPI. And this is the only KPI that most of the time the target is 100%. All other KPI may have a lower target. I will tell you based on what today. But the incident, which means whenever we open an incident, okay, how many incidents we opened this year and how many incident has been closed, fixed? If I detected 100 incidents, but we only closed 95 incidents, it means that the effectiveness of our incident management is 95%. Okay. So it's very easy to figure out how to calculate the KPIs. I want you to build a KPI framework based on what we covered so far. What do you think need to have a KPI to measure? Let's say that my company asked you guys to build a KPI framework. We are implementing the security, and we need to know what needs to be measured as an effectiveness. Okay, antivirus awareness, vulnerability management, risk management. What do you think it's important to measure to be able to improve it? It's antivirus. Do we need a KPI for it or not? Right? Because antiviruses or viruses and malware is a very big risk, and antivirus is costly, and I need to make sure that I have an effective solution to protect. Right? Vulnerability management. Do we need to have a KPI for it or not? When we spoke about vulnerability management, our responsibility was to conduct a vulnerability assessment only. We run NASAS, scan, get a report, and send it to the team, Windows team, Linux team, application team, to fix the patches, right? Yes. And when we do that, we are expecting from the other team to fix all those high and medium vulnerability before our next vulnerability assessment, right? So if I measure, how many vulnerability was found in this quarter, comparing with how many vulnerability was patched, this will give you a KPI or not? Well, on quarter one, we detected 100 vulnerability, high and medium. However, only 50 vulnerability was closed. So what is the KPI here? 50%. 50%. Is it acceptable? Definitely not. I know that we need to have a target, but definitely not. When I know that it's not acceptable, I need to identify why we didn't achieve our target, which, for example, was 90%. Because there is different element. I am the one who conducts the vulnerability. We have Windows team fixing or patching Windows system, Linux team, application team. So when I start analyzing, I will know what is the problem. Maybe I'm doing my role right, and Windows team is doing everything right, but the application team is not patching. So at least I figure out the problem. To know who is responsible, and he need to work on it to improve the percentage. So this is what I wanted from you guys. Go through all the topics that we cover and check what need to be or what could be measured and could be improved as a security. Okay. And I will be happy with 9 KPIs. I already give you like 5 or 6. Vulnerability management, antivirus, awareness, we have 2. Risk management, incident management. What else? Check your job description, see. Because also this is showing to the management your progress. When you show them the KPI and you show them every quarter the improvement, or if you have any kind of challenge, you show them numbers. For management, this is easier to explain, and this is easier to get their support on it. Let me ask a question from my side. We agreed that the antivirus will have the KPI will have a target. So when we are talking about, for example, Kaspersky antivirus KPI, or antivirus KPI, we should have a target to measure the effectiveness of that. What do you think, or based on what do you think we can specify the target? 95%, 90%, 100%. It's based on the infrastructure. Okay, I'll give you a small example. Mm-hmm. If my company got many sites, and some of the sites are in very far cities, for example, and I have around 5,000 computers, okay, and one of the computers who are located in a very far or in a different city have a problem. I have few technicians, so I will not be able to send a technician to this site before like few days. So this will affect the KPI. But because my infrastructure is not all under my management, or I'm not able to manage all of them, so I will reduce the KPI, because I know sometimes when a problem happens in one of the cities who don't have a technician, I will not be able to send a technician from my side before next week. But if I'm working in a company that only have one branch, we only have 100 computers in the same branch, we have only 4 or 5 offices in the same floor. So if a problem happens is next door, I will send the technician, he will fix it. In this case, I will increase the target because I can manage all my machines. They are under my controls. Another example, awareness. Okay, I was giving awareness in an entity who have around 12,000 employees. And the management requested to have the target of this KPI 100%. But those employees, some of them are working shifts. So some of them are working morning, some of them are working night, some of them are working weekend. So you cannot gather all the employees during working hours. So I cannot have 100% as a KPI. So, it's based on that, about the situation. We cannot say how frequently, what is the target, but it should be reasonable, but based on this kind of circumstances. Okay. Second point is the frequency of measuring the KPI. For example, the antivirus here, we are measuring that every quarter because this will, they got like maybe thousands of machines. So every quarter I'm measuring that. But for example, awareness, I'm doing that once per year because, we are only conducting awareness once per year. Incident management once per year. This is something to be written inside the framework. What I'm looking for, I want you to create a KPI. Let me be more specific. Information security KPI framework. Okay. Framework means we need to have 10 KPIs. Okay. For example, AV, you will write down how many KPI you will use in this company. If I hire you to create the KPI for me, so I can measure the effectiveness of the control. So you will tell me, for example, you need to have a KPI for antivirus, for awareness, for incident management. Okay. You can use whatever, but you add more. Go to your job description and check. Okay. What do I need? I need for each one of those 10 KPI, the formula. How are you going to measure them? I showed you already how to measure the antivirus, how to measure the awareness. But what about incident management? What about risk? What about vulnerability management? Formula. Second, the frequently. How frequently this KPI need to be measured? If, for example, the antivirus, you will say, I will measure that monthly or quarterly or annually. How frequently it should be measured? Okay. Third, the target. What would be the target values for antivirus? What is your target? Okay, you can specify whatever target, but I need to have a target. So the antivirus, the target will be 99%. The incident will be 100%. You can do your own research. Search, see, for small and medium organization, what should be the target for them? And finally, what should be the action taken in case of not achieving the target? Let me show you what we do usually when we don't achieve the target. We do have something called the causality report. I'll show you one report, So it's not like any department or not department, any team, antivirus team or vulnerability management team. If causality report, that they will not achieve the goal and that's it. They have to specify in the report what was the reason. They have to do investigation. Yeah, here we go. I kept that in the template as well. This is a causality report. It's a report that explains why we didn't achieve the goal. So, what is the goal of the antivirus? What is the last month, the next month? Why we didn't achieve the goal? You write down the root cause, the corrective actions, the preventive action. It's a very, very useful report. Okay. So This will let you identify the problem and working on it. What is the root cause for not achieving? If you achieve the target, it's fine. You don't need to fill this report. But if not, you have to identify what is the reason behind that.